Africa's richest man has been accused of seeking to monopolize Nigeria's diesel and aviation fuel industries.
If you want to get money, in fact, in Nigeria, you must struggle before you eat.
A colossal $20 billion project spearheaded by Aliko Dangote.
Why Nigeria can't refine its own oil is a question that's been asked for generations.
Two hugely important things have changed: refining and subsidy.
When the fuel subsidy was removed, there was a kind of panic.
We now live on oil, sleep on oil, eat on oil, which is unfortunate.
That the Dangote Refinery is still at the pre-commissioning stage and has not been licensed. The Chief Executive Officer of the regulatory body, Farouk Ahmed, while speaking with journalists in Port Harcourt, also claimed that the Dangote Refinery only produces between 650 to 1,200 parts per million, and so their quality is much more inferior to imported quality. Well, on Saturday, the chairman of the Dangote Refinery, Aliko Dangote, refuted claims that the petroleum products from his refinery are substandard. Dangote made the remarks when members of the House of Representatives, led by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, visited the refinery in Lagos. Dangote said the regulatory agency accredited and approved the Dangote Refinery laboratory in March 2024. A credibility analysis at the refinery's laboratory to access the quality of the diesel product revealed that the diesel sample, commonly known as AGO, measured 87.6 parts per million, contrary to the claims made by the regulatory authority.
The Dangote Refinery.
Because of the theft, it has created a scenario where there has been a stifling of investment in the sector.
Government should know that we own the oil.
A complex and high-stakes drama is unfolding in the oil sector.
What is going on with Aliko Dangote's refinery?
Ongoing issues surrounding the Dangote Refinery.
Things that other people cannot do, they are disturbing the person who is doing it.
The president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote.
Whatever is going on between the regulators and Dangote Refinery is bad optics for Nigeria.
The $20 billion Dangote Refinery commenced operations in January 2024. Its construction, built on land purchased for $100 million, was celebrated as an indigenous vehicle, driving Nigeria to finally benefit from its own resource wealth. For more than 50 years, Nigeria has exported its crude oil, only to buy it back for multinationals as refined petroleum products. These imports represent the lion's share of Nigeria's 400,000 barrel per day consumption. And that's because of the long-term poor state of Nigeria's refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri. Essentially, locally refined crude oil would make petrol, diesel and kerosene much cheaper than what is already available to consumers in Nigeria.
You know, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Most High, once said that a prophet is never respected on their own homeland. But how long will a prophet not be respected in their own homeland? For how long shall this continue? This is a problem that is evident even in African countries today. We have the nation of Nigeria. Nigeria is having the privilege, we are so privileged, Nigerians, to be hosting the world's richest man, which is Aliko Dangote. He's a child, he's a man born from your country. He's a child of Nigeria, that is Aliko Dangote. But one thing that does not really sit well with me is how Aliko Dangote is treated by fellow Africans.
Where billions of dollars worth of much needed foreign exchange are used to import petroleum products. This is something the Dangote Refinery seeks to provide an alternative to.
That is why the coming in of Dangote Refinery will help to stabilize so as not to escalate further the crisis.
So what's the problem?
Now, so many Nigerians are in favor of Aliko Dangote, but some people on top do not want Aliko Dangote and his company to thrive. I don't know who is doing this, but we can make a clear guess who is behind it. Somebody is pulling strings. The puppet master is pulling strings and the puppet is adjusting to the strings. Now, it's probably that the West does not want to lose market. The West does not want to lose trade. I'm saying it for what it is. They are pushing those corrupt Nigerian leaders, the corrupt one. You just need to give them some money. A few, of course. Give them some money, let them grease their hands, and everything will be slippery. They can't hold on to their morals even. Their morals will also be slippery. That is the problem of keeping your hands greasy. Even your morals slide away, and you're left just a human with no morals at all.
In Nigeria, a complex and high-stakes drama is unfolding in the oil sector. And central to the controversy is the Dangote Refinery, a colossal $20 billion project spearheaded by Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man. Now, this refinery, which began operations in January of 2023, was hailed as a game changer for Nigeria's oil industry. However, it now finds itself at the center of a fierce dispute involving Nigeria's regulatory and major oil companies. The conflict began to surface after Dangote's refinery struggled to secure adequate crude oil supplies. And despite being a key player in one of Africa's largest oil-producing countries, Dangote Refinery was forced to source crude from abroad.
Imagine putting all that money down just to be told you cannot continue this structure because you are going to create a monopoly. A monopoly is where you, as a person who is bringing oil and extracting a certain substance, for instance, you are able to control the prices, and because there is nobody else challenging you, you have power over it. You decide the price, you decide to raise it or lower it, and there is no regulation because you are the only one. It's the same problem we are having in Kenya right now. In Kenya, we have an electricity company called KPLC, Kenya Power and Lighting Company. It's the only company that sells electricity to individuals in the whole country. Companies have come here in Africa, such as the ones from Japan, the ones from South Africa, America as well. These companies have been shut off by government officials. They are bringing so very lame excuse. This will happen, that will happen. They want to enjoy monopoly. There is that instance of monopoly, yes. But the case of Kenya is different from the case of Nigeria. A lot of money is being wasted on that transaction. Now Dangote is trying to build Africa, make Africa home, make Africa that Wakanda, actualize the Wakanda fiction. But Africans, we are so dumb. We are so dumb that we cannot see what this guy is doing for us. We cannot see clearly.
All concurrently. So, I mean, this one here alone is enough to give somebody gray hair, headache, and whatever. And, you know, but it's like what I said, we're in the middle of the sea. If we stop swimming, we'll sink. The only option is just to continue swimming, no matter how tired you are.
Because a few people have been bribed, they want to ruin it for everyone else. This is the problems that Chinua Achebe, also a Nigerian writer, was talking about in his book. There's another book where he talked about, I think it's Things Fall Apart, or the Biafra War. There's something that he talked about, something Biafra Wars, yes. He talked about such things. Aliko Dangote has invested a lot because he saw hope in Africa. He saw hope that there is growth which can happen. Now he has decided, if you want me not to build this oil company, this oil refinery, then I'm well and good. I'm just going to sell it out. And also, actually, I was going to build another steel company. Now that steel company, I'm not going to build it as well. This is the words of Aliko Dangote. He is pulling out his investments.
Nigeria politically is a complicated country anyway. You could argue that it was sort of cobbled together under British colonialism. So there's not necessarily this inbuilt sense of national unity. So if you have 9 states where the oil is concentrated, it's quite natural for those states to say, well, hang on, isn't this ours? And yet what happens in the Nigerian kind of political economy is basically the money from oil goes to the federal government, now based in Abuja, who then redistribute. Now, some of it goes preferentially back to those 9 states, but this huge descent.
Now, countries such as Saudi Arabia would have welcomed Aliko Dangote. Countries such as Russia would have welcomed Aliko Dangote. USA would have welcomed Aliko Dangote to build refineries in their own country. Why is it that Africans are the ones not accepting this? It is not Africans who are pulling the strings. It's people way much. We think they are greater than us. We think so because we've made them so. If you accept, if somebody is always bribing you, you become their slave. You become their puppet. A puppet dances to the moves of the master. If a master says right, you go right. He says left, you go left. And that is why also people in Kenya were demonstrating against William Samoei Ruto. For the case of Nigeria and Aliko Dangote, I'm saddened. I'm so much saddened.
Here's where things get sticky. Nigeria's National Petroleum Corporation is the major corporate entity. The corporation arm signs contracts with multinational companies. These companies then pay lucrative fees for licenses, initial costs, and taxes on their profits back to the NMPC. The NMPC is then supposed to pay that money into the national treasury. All of this happens under the watchful eye of the regulation arm. Historically, there have been concerns over the lack of transparency concerning the NMPC and also alleged vested interests that have fueled allegations of an oil cabal motivated by missing money, corruption and collusion.
All the petrol stations owned in this country by private, built by private, today they are competing with federal government NMPC called petrol station. Can you imagine? After we had attempted to deregulate the downstream, NMPC still sat there and continued to eject cheap government money from upstream resources to build petrol stations across the country.
The entrance of the Dangote Refinery may threaten an already existing system of rent-seeking, racketeering, and a general opaqueness when it comes to the oil industry.
The mafia in oil, they are stronger than mafia in drugs.
Dangote's supporters say this is the reason his products have been condemned before even reaching the market. And it's not the first time Dangote has hit a roadblock in the Nigerian oil industry. In 2007, just as President Olusegun Obasanjo was on his way out of office, Blue Star Consortium, owned by Aliko Dangote, and oil and gas magnate Femi Otedola sought to buy 2 defunct state-owned refineries in Kaduna and Port Harcourt for $700 million. The deal ended abruptly in 2008 with Otedola and Dangote losing a joint $150 million in bank charges, interest and fees. According to a whole host of Nigerian and international media, the deal fell through when Obasanjo's successor, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, cancelled the deal under pressure from Nigeria's Labour Congress and the NNPC. Nevertheless, in 2013, Dangote sought to build his own refinery, this time without the consortium and without Femi Otedola, who might have learned his lesson from the first rodeo. Fast forward to 2024, and the Dangote Refinery is set to make its presence felt. The Nigerian government, through the NMPC, pledged a $3 billion investment in the Dangote Refinery in exchange for a 20% stake. But unable to make good on its pledge, the NNPC now owns just 7.2%. The NNPC says it came to that decision after reviewing its investment portfolio. Dangote has also shared the difficulty he has faced in trying to secure Nigerian crude for his refinery. The NNPC's $3.3 billion loan from Afrexim Bank is in exchange for its crude. That, along with other obligations, have had an impact on local supply. Dangote has also accused international oil companies of refusing to supply him crude or charging far more than the market price. It's a series of hurdles that prompted Dangote to admit that one of his friends who had advised him against investing in Nigeria was now taunting him as he faced allegations from the midstream regulator. Dangote has not named the friend in question, but many heavy hitters have spoken out in his defense. Femi Otedola, President of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, and former Central Bank Governor Sanusi Lamido have all released statements calling on Dangote detractors to encourage entrepreneurship in Nigeria.
You understand? Africans are the ones whom somebody will create a mall, and some angry politician who is being bribed by other people would say, I don't want that mall over there. And they would find a perfect excuse. They would say that this mall is created on some major road map. A road is supposed to be crossing right through into your mall or even your house. We've had such cases happening so many times in African countries. But now, the one which has happened in Nigeria is of a much higher scale. You understand? Remember, it is the same Nigeria which demolished that big mall we had in Lagos. It's the biggest, I think. It was the biggest in West Africa, probably in West Africa. It was so big. The government of Nigeria decided they were going to demolish the mall because a road was supposed to be passing there. They wouldn't find any other place for the road to pass. And now it's Dangote. Dangote is having problem as well. Now, there is something I need to clarify well with you.
Supply the market. Okay, are you saying that the 4 billion the NMPC spent now on the activation of their own refineries, Kaduna, Warri, and Port Harcourt, is that money down the drain? Are the refineries not going to work? They have announced a date. So if they are there, we cannot be a monopoly because we are not the only ones. Actually, they are more powerful than us. So there's no way we can actually even be a monopoly. It's not done. I have seen also in the quality that they are talking about. Yes, you know, when we started with about 600-700 ppm, which is true. That is where we started because, you know, it was a new plant. We have not commissioned most of them. So by the time that we finish now, we have commissioned part of it. So I'm actually surprised for somebody to come and mention that, yes, we have a bad quality. We and the other modular refineries. I can't talk about the quality of the modular refineries, but our own today, like what I said, our own production, you have seen, we have tested it, is 87 ppm. And by the time you come, even on Monday, we'll be at 50. By beginning of August, end of this month, beginning of August, we'll be at 10 ppm. Okay? Our flash point, you've seen the tests that we have run, and Your Excellency, Sir, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Honorable Speaker, the leadership of the House, I want you to even at any time set up a committee that they will come with every representatives headed by your chosen honorable member to come and lead in taking samples from filling stations. Because I must tell you today that all the test certificates that people are busy, you know, floating around, where are the labs? Even if they have the labs, I can tell you they are fake certificates. The real one that you now know that they are right is to take from the filling station and also to come and take also from our production line. Now you will be able to tell Nigerians that this is it. But you know, the marketing of a company by a regulator that he's supposed to protect is very, very unfortunate. You know, I mean, it's good that we didn't even know that you are going to ask us to stop by the road and pick up diesel. And, you know, we didn't know what you wanted to do. And when we got here, I said, okay, fine, let them go and, you know, take sample. And the chairman downstream of the House and the chairman midstream of the House went with our people to pick up a hot sample. They brought, you've tested, and you've seen where we are. So we want to clear that, yes, we produce the best diesel in Nigeria. And if the regulator wants, he can come 24 hours anytime. He has people here. Let him conduct this. And I would like to also the media to show our lab, and I want them to also show the lab of the regulator himself. He should show us which lab is he using. Yes, because, you know, as a regulator, you're supposed to have a lab. If a regulator doesn't have a lab, then we have an issue. You know, he cannot rely on somebody. He's supposed to, you know, check us.
Well, to shed more light on this matter, we're now being joined by economist Kevin Emmanuel, who had on X, formerly known as Twitter, addressed what he considers misrepresentations about the Dangote Refinery, including issues on certification and actual production capacity. Well, good morning, Emmanuel. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.
Morning.
I was hoping that you listened to...
good morning, OJ.
Thank you. I was hoping that you listened to the president of the Dangote Group there, Aliko Dangote, refuting claims made by the regulatory body. They had claimed that, you know, the Dangote Refinery is still at the pre-commissioning stage and that it's not being licensed at the point. But also yesterday, Dangote said that the refinery is fully ready and that in August, all the array of products except for petrochemicals will be available. And now, can you help us understand how this works? Looking at your tweet yesterday, you said that commercial refineries undergo 7 stages of pre-commissioning. So please walk us through what you know, the process is to get certified.
Oji, thank you so much for having me, and very good morning to you and everyone this morning. I don't want to bore you with too much technical details, but before I start talking about the pre-commissioning stages and the technical capability tests that the NMDPRA as the regulator midstream and downstream does for a commercial refinery of that size, and it does for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 180 days, 270, and then 360. At the end of 6 months, it gives you a provisional acceptance certificate, and then at the end of 12 months, it gives you a final acceptance certificate. Let me say that I am actually surprised that the NMDPRA chief still has a job. And I'll tell you why I said that. In February 2022, petrol was imported into Nigeria. Alhaji Aliko Dangote said that the regulator does not have his own lab that aligns with internal and third-party Robin Roundtable tests for motor octane number, research octane number, distillation level, sulphur content that tests for ash and for density. And it's a shame because in 2022, petrol was actually imported into Nigeria that has such low research and motor octane level that it hit what they call the anti-knocking ratio. So many people's car engines were damaged, generator engines were damaged. There was no recompense, there was no investigation. The National Assembly did not call the regulator and ask them. They did not investigate facts. So the question is, Nigeria has been importing petrol and diesel and other petroleum products since 1972. For 52 years. Nigeria had refineries that had installed capacity of 210,000 barrels of crude oil processing per year. The last was completed in 1989 by British Petroleum and Shell. It's currently not operational. And in the last 20-something years, the government has spent 12 trillion in turnaround maintenance and is still dead. And in my opinion, I don't think those refineries should be relied on, by the way. You know, so if, for example, an entrepreneur takes on the challenge of investing north of $20 billion to build a refinery, the government should support him. Now, let me come back. Refineries go through 7 stages of pre-commissioning because you have to test every single thing in the refinery. Now, for example, the reason why when they started refining diesel, the level of parts per million was anywhere around 650 to 1,002. Was because what they call the crude oil distillation unit and the hydrotreater is not currently in operation. There are different stages of the refineries that has to go through tests. That's why you have NMDPRA officials there at the Dangote Refinery for the first 12 months. The officials are there to go through with the staffs of the refinery and the engineers to test every single part of it and ensure that they are working properly. You know, so the fact that the hydrotreater does not come on, it means that they have to start refining from what they call lower or heavier distillates, like non-transportation fuels. You have your base oil, you have your petroleum coke that is used for making aluminium, you have your petrochemical feedstock, you have your bitumen binders. Those are your heavy distillates, and then you come to your middle distillates, and then you come to your higher distillates, right? And that's the reason why PMS is going to be one of the last set of derivatives of the 9 that will come into effect at the refinery. So I don't get the fuse, and I was a bit disappointed that the NMDPRA chief will say that Dangote wants to stop companies from importing petrol and diesel into Nigeria. Are we not supposed to stop importing petrol and diesel? Every month, Nigeria spends $2.4 billion to form its energy basket. 9 products, Jet A1, automotive gasoline, oil, AGO, premium motor spirit, PMS, kerosene, lubricants, bitumen binders. 9 of them consumes $2.4 billion a month. So in a year, you spend north of anywhere around $26 billion importing petroleum products. If you have a refinery that has been built and can fully backwardly integrate us, and at full capacity utilization, we'll do 49.4 million liters of PMS on a daily basis. We'll do about 26 million liters of diesel on a daily basis. We'll do about 12 million liters of Jet A1 on a daily basis, about 1.1 million liters of kerosene on a daily basis, about 2.1 million liters of base oil that is used to produce lubricants that we use for our engines and all kinds of stuff. Why is the government not happy to supply Dangote with feedstock?
All right, Kevin, thanks for setting the tone for this conversation. I'd like you to take it a notch further. I like the way that you started in terms of the requirements for certification. Yes, you do not want to bore us with technicalities, but it will be important to break it down so that people who are watching will understand what is actually going on. Given that this is a project that the Nigerian government, through the NMPC, was meant to own a stake, paid some money, was meant to balance up. But then it looks like things are falling apart. Does this have to do with the deal with the federal government through the NMPC that seems to be in jeopardy, from 20% ownership now down to 7.9%, according to Dangote himself? Is what Farouk Ahmed is saying, is it coming on the basis of that failed, shall we say, transaction? In essence, does it mean that, do you think that the Dangote Refinery constitutes a threat to vested interest?
I will say that the Dangote Refinery is going to wipe off the importation business because the American Society for Testing and Materials, ASTM, now you have different kinds of tests in the midstream sector for refineries. You have European standards, EN 228. You have ASTM, D4814. You have colonial tests. You have the Environmental Protection Agency test in America. Then you have the American Petroleum Institute test. All these are standards tests that test for research octane number, motor octane number. It tests for distillation, for sulfur content, and for density. Now, you can see that the test that has been done at the lab of the Dangote Refinery produce his diesel at 87.6 parts per million. The test that was done for Total Energies downstream and Matrix Energy produced, Total produced about 1,827 parts per million diesel for imported diesel into Nigeria. And Matrix Energy produced about 2,254 parts per million for imported diesel into Nigeria. Okay? So his diesel is way, way, way better than what is imported into Nigeria. And if the National Assembly wants to go a step further, National Assembly can recruit SGS. SGS is one of the most reputable gasoline testing firm in the world.
There's what we call crude oil. Many countries in the world are not able to produce their own oil. And so those countries which are not able to produce their own oil are always depending on countries such as Nigeria, Algeria, and Libya, among African countries, to produce oil for them. You understand? Now, it's always crude oil that they extract. Crude oil are the ones that you find build plastics, build things, this is made of plastic. Probably it's made from compounds from the crude oil. So crude oils are the ones which are power on automotives, power on machines, generators. Think of it. Crude oil is very essential in modern day and time. Now, there is a process called fractional distillation. Fractional distillation is a process whereby a substance that is a mixture of other substances and they are together. Fractional distillation is a method of separating these mixtures to their individual constituents or into their individual components. Now, when crude oil has been fractionally distillated, what we get is butanol, we get methane, which is the gas people use to cook. We get so many compounds from them. Name it all: kerosene, diesel, we have petrol, so many of them. ExxonMobil. I did a video about ExxonMobil with the Venezuela and Guyana case. ExxonMobil is a company of the West. It's a company of America, to be specific, USA. And so the crude oil that is always extracted from the Nigerian soil or ocean, I don't know where, but it's in Nigeria, this oil is always transported into containers to Western companies such as ExxonMobil. We have these other companies such as Kenol Kobil. We have companies such as Shell. Shell is very popular in many African countries. We also have companies such as Total. Total is also very popular. It's a French company, Total. So it's not, if it was English, it would be Total. Now it's French, it's called Total. Now it's a French company, whichever the name. Now they take the oil from Nigeria. Nigerians sell them this oil. And then after selling them this oil, they do what we call the fractional distillation process that I told you. They separate this crude oil into its various components, such as petrol, diesel, kerosene, propane, methane, all these, the LPG, liquid petroleum gas, all this is done by those Western companies. And then they sell it back at exorbitant, very expensive prices. They sell it back here. I understand that crude oil might not fetch the same amount as the one which has already been refined. Now, they charge us a lot. They take our products, we sell it to them, then they sell it back at abnormal prices, very expensive. Dangote was watching all this, and he decided and said, no, we have to come back and we have to do this for our own. We have to make our own oil. We have our own oil here. We can just, if we can build a structure, if we can do a structure that can be able to do this fractional distillation, we can be able to provide jobs for so many people in Nigeria. We can be able to perform better. The cost that is going outside, the foreign exchange, will be so much lower because Nigeria is losing more money by selling to those people. You understand? Remember, trade, international trade is done using US dollar. That is how US placed it. Now we have the BRICS trying to break this, which is good. We are waiting for the BRICS to bring that stable coin or currency that will be used for international trade among BRIC countries. Dangote, even with his big dream, has faced a lot of banishment. Those corrupt leaders in in Nigeria do not want Aliko Dangote to have this company to operate in Africa, to operate in Nigeria. That's all. That's all. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this content. If you have, kindly give it a super thanks. Subscribe. Yeah, subscribe, super thanks, and all that. I would so much appreciate. See you in the next one.